The guy is such a clown. Look, why in the world would it matter to you? I mean, you're obviously in favor of oxycontin being readily available to people. Personal experience. So why not marijuana? What's the problem with marijuana? Marijuana seems to be fairly innocuous compared to something that's dangerous like oxycontin. Oh. He said, I don't care what you say, I'm against it. All right, Russ, we understand. Thanks. Oh. Welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David Stevenson. Tonight I have a very special guest, Curt Rayvis, who is a political activist that has a very interesting story to tell about his very interesting narrative about his life so far. But I'll let him introduce himself. Go ahead, Curt.
Well, political activist since about the age of 6 in the civil rights movement. So with my parents in 1960, marching, going to Washington, meeting with their friends who were going down to Alabama, Mississippi to register people to vote. That was my introduction to politics, and JFK and Camelot and the assassination was my introduction to cynicism in politics. So for the last 50 years, I have been watching how people get elected, how they run, what they do when they get elected, what they don't do, and why.
Well, here's a $50,000 question. We're here to talk about marijuana, as you might have surmised from the introduction. 2 bills in front of the House and Senate in Connecticut, one for medical marijuana, and one for not legalization, but decriminalization of marijuana.
Correct.
Explain the 2 bills, explain how they're different one from the other, and then we'll go from there.
The subject of decriminalization is a question of, do we accept that this is something that has been around virtually forever, is readily available to anyone who really wants it, and will continue to be readily available to whoever really wants it for the indefinite future, because people like it, who use it recreationally.
Well, I got to step in there and say this because I guess the audience kind of knows that I live a pretty clean life. I don't drink. I don't smoke cigarettes. I do not smoke marijuana.
And I don't hold any of that against you.
Because thank you. My lungs are just they're not built to hold smoke. Smoked cigarettes for about a minute at the age of 17 on my first job, and when I started coughing, I knew something was going on, and it was my body was telling me something. But go continue.
I want to make something clear. I would never recommend somebody using marijuana. It's not, nor would I recommend somebody drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes or take any drug.
How about OxyContin? Listen and rush.
OxyContin, under the supervision of a physician and used for the pain that it was designed to combat, is probably a very, very good effective medication. The problem is it also has recreational qualities that some people like or enjoy. And they apparently like it so much that they will go to any lengths, including our friend Rush, who got 5 or 6 different prescriptions from different doctors in different states because he could only get so much from his own physician. And that's called doctor shopping, and it happens with prescription drug users very often. Now we're talking about some of the really major drug problems in America.
So where does marijuana fit into all this?
Here's where marijuana fits in. And I'll go back in history to when I was in high school. I was the last of my friends to try marijuana. Before all of my friends were trying it, were using it. And I went to my dad and I said, tell me about marijuana. He said, I really don't know that much about it. He said, why don't we go look it up? So we went to the World Book Encyclopedia and we looked it up, and we looked it up in the dictionary. And back then you actually had to go to a library that had a card file and look up reference books.
A real library.
And go pull the books off the shelf and read them.
Oh my goodness.
All 3 clicks.
Now, were these books made out of paper or were they chiseled in stone?
Actually, paper with covers that had texture to them and colors on the shelf.
We're dating ourselves. Yeah. Okay.
So we went to the library and we read several books, including some history books that talked about marijuana. And here's what we learned, father and son, in 1970.
Yeah.
It's been around for thousands of years. Even before ancient Egypt, which we know a lot about the use in ancient Egypt, in India before that, and probably even before recorded history. It has been used for many things. It has fibers which make the best rope for ocean-going use. It has fiber which can be used to make cloth, which is actually softer than cotton and 8 times more durable.
Is this hemp or marijuana we're talking about?
We're talking about the same plant.
Okay, the same plant.
The same plant from the same seed.
Okay.
The differentiation being male or female as to what the plant is best used for.
Okay.
Okay. In addition to rope, cloth, hemp actually, the fiber from hemp makes some of the best paper in the world. And we're going to come back to this when we get to the reasons why it is illegal.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are the medicinal and intoxicating properties of the flowers and leaves of marijuana.
Okay.
It has been used for thousands of years as an intoxicant, as a medicine, as a food. To this day, the seeds from hemp are used as a main ingredient in bird food all over the world because of the rich oil and proteins found in those seeds, which also have beneficial uses for humans.
Yeah.
There is no toxicity to marijuana. In the 1970s, the government wanted to prove that marijuana could kill you. So they took a poor little rhesus monkey and gave him 240 joints worth of THC in one shot, trying to kill him so they could prove it was
to show
toxic.
that there was some toxicity there.
For several days, the monkey was fairly listless, seemed content to groom himself, eat a little bit, and sleep. After which, he was chipper as a jaybird a few days later.
Interesting.
No noticeable side effects.
Now, let's take it in two different directions. Let's go into the medical marijuana, because a lot of people claim that there are medicinal benefits of marijuana, and that's why, for instance, in California, it's been legalized for use with certain conditions.
Correct. Those conditions are primarily cancer, multiple sclerosis, cystic fibrosis, cerebral palsy, permanent spinal cord, serious spinal cord and spinal injuries, sciatica, and certain types of migraine headaches.
Okay.
Now, for thousands of years, it has been used medicinally by different cultures for exactly those things, although many cancers were unknown to them. It can be combusted and inhaled, smoked, or it can be eaten.
Okay.
So claiming that this is something that must be smoked and is therefore harmful because people weren't meant to smoke things, that may be true, although it's not smoked in large quantities the way cigarettes are. But it can also be ingested in food.
Okay, to get the benefits of the.
Now,
okay, let me test my memory here now. Tetrahydrocannabinol. Cannabinol. Okay, close.
Otherwise known commonly as THC.
THC, yeah.
That is the psychoactive ingredient. However, cannabis in its natural form contains many, many compounds, including compounds that function as anti-inflammatories and antibiotics. Now, those compounds that are contained in cannabis are not psychoactive. So using that does not create any kind of altered state of consciousness.
Now, we've had a couple of years of experience in California with legalization of marijuana for medicinal purposes.
Yes.
Is there enough evidence to say one way or the other, or to speak to the results of that?
I'll speak for myself.
Okay.
I, as you know, have a permanent spinal cord injury, a broken neck.
Right.
It has been surgically repaired as far as the vertebrae and the discs themselves between the vertebrae. They've been replaced with titanium and bone from my hip.
Okay.
But when my neck broke in 1999, the broken disc began damaging my spinal cord, for which there is no corrective surgery.
Okay.
And now there's a 7-millimeter lesion in my spinal cord at the third cervical vertebra, just below the brainstem.
Okay.
The result of that permanent damage is this. There's a constant burning pain that runs all through